Challenge and context. Stakeholders related to energy generation, distribution, and sales. In this video, we'll talk about the actors involved in the energy system. At the end of this video, you will be able to list stakeholders related to energy generation, distribution, and sales. Identify their roles in our energy system. Different stakeholders are involved in our energy system. First, energy has to be generated. Generators produce electricity from primary energy sources. Renewable energy sources, or RES generators or prosumers, may have the storage devices, which help integrating RES and dealing with RES instability in the power system. Next, grid operators ensure physical transport and distribution of energy. Retailers, on the other hand, ensure the economical energy flow by buying the energy from the generators and selling the electricity to the end user, the consumer. Following the unbundling of segments principle, generation, grid, and retail are separated into independent entities. Hereby, energy monopolies are prevented. The remaining monopoly, the grid, is supervised by the regulator. Following the competition principle, energy is traded on the energy market by bilateral contracts or and at the power exchange. Over the last years, generation structure has been changing. The conventional generation is still the main contributor, but the share of renewable sources, together with storage, increases continuously. Conventional generation includes energy generation by burning coal, liquid fuels, and natural gas. Whereas coal is the most carbon-intensive energy source, gas power plants can act as a more carbon-friendly replacement. Moreover, due to their fast ramping capability, they are an important backup for fluctuating generation from renewable sources. Nuclear energy is also part of the conventional generation portfolio. Some EU member states implemented an exit strategy for nuclear power plants. In general, the European power sector is moving from fossil fuels to renewable sources. More conventional power plants are decommissioned than installed. Renewable generation includes energy production by using wind, solar, water, and biomass as a resource. Geothermal energy generation also belongs to this category. In 2018, 28% of the electricity production in Europe originated from renewable sources. Wind and hydro make up the highest share. This distribution might differ between the different European countries, as the potential or development of renewable energy sources is highly dependent on the location. Storage devices help controlling and balancing the RES energy supply to or from the grid. Energy storage system or batteries development and production is a strategic imperative for Europe in the context of the clean energy transition. The electrification of some housing services, like energy storage or heating, will follow and will contribute to further reducing greenhouse gas or GHG emissions. In the medium term, there will be a significant increase in the volume of lithium-ion batteries placed on the market. However, the carbon footprint of batteries critically depends on the energy source used in the manufacturing phase and can differ significantly across producers. Compared to regular combustion engines, the potential for reducing GHG emission savings ranges between 48 to 60% for the better performing ones and 19 to 26% for some others. Grid operators ensure the physical transport and distribution of electricity by providing the necessary infrastructure. Transmission system operators, also known as TSOs, transport the energy over large distances. Distribution system operators, also known as DSOs, distribute the energy to the end customer. Transmission and distribution grids are connected to each other. Transmission grids are usually operated using ultra-high voltage levels in the range between 220 and 380 kilovolts. TSOs have to ensure frequency and voltage stability, balance generation and consumption, and provide sufficient reactive power. Distribution grids consist of high, medium, and low voltage levels, delivering the energy to the consumers in the regions. As renewable energy sources are often connected to distribution grids, DSOs face new challenges to secure system operational stability. Whereas grid operators handle the physical energy flow, retailers are responsible for the economic part. Retailers manage the sales and delivery of electricity to consumers. They provide forecasts for the daily electricity consumption and thus obtain the needed amounts of electricity. Retailers act as intermediaries between consumers and generators and ensure the smooth trade of electricity among them. Energy and consumers are typically divided into three main categories: industries, commerce, and households. The major share of energy consumption is allocated to the industry and transportation sector. In 2019, 56.5% of the total energy consumption was caused by the industry and transport sector in the European Union. Households account for 26.3% of the total energy consumption. Commercial and public services consumed 13.7% of the total energy. As the share of renewable energy on the generation side increases, households might no longer simply act as consumers, but as prosumers. Conventionally, households are only consuming energy. If a household, for example, has a photovoltaic panel installed, it also becomes a generator. Thus, the household generates and consumes its own energy. Consequently, it may either decrease the amount of energy taken from the grid or even deliver some excess energy to the grid. Acting as a generator and consumer, this new type of stakeholder is called a prosumer. After the successful implementation of the unbundling principle, which separates generation from the grid and from the retail, the operation of the grid is the remaining monopoly. Therefore, the grid has to be regulated. Each European country has individual regulation calculations and strategies, and its own agency to monitor it. At European level, these agencies collaborate in the Council of European Energy Regulators, also known as CEER. And the Agency for Cooperation of Energy Regulators, also known as ACER. The regulator ensures decent grid operations and also oversees the energy market. For generation and retail, competition is desirable. Forward and future, as well as day-ahead and intraday markets are deployed to secure grid stability and satisfy the equilibrium between generation and consumption. Let's rebuild the big picture of actors and their relations to conclude this video. There are two types of generators: conventional and renewable. The energy produced is put on the operating grid, transmission network first, then distribution network. Consumers are connected to the grid according to their power requirements, large industries on the transmission network, commerce and households on the distribution network. A part of the consumers is considered as prosumers. They also inject electricity into the network. Consumers pay the electricity bill to a retailer that distributes money and information to grid operators. As competitive actors, generators and retailers exchange money and information through a market. Finally, regulators provide rules to grid operators and receive data from them. Thanks for watching.